Hey everyone, back with another Photoshop tutorial. This time it's of a blue car. I had a viewer on one of the previous YouTube videos leave me a comment and said, hey, it would be cool if you could retouch my grabber blue Mustang. He said, awesome, if you send over a shot, it's a cool shot, I'll give it a go. So here's what he sent. The only stipulation that he said is, hey, I don't have Lightroom, I only have Photoshop. Can you do the retouch in Photoshop? So we're going to go through Photoshop workflow that I would do to retouch this photo. So we'll start in Camera Raw. There's a couple things right off the bat that I think we need to address with this photo. First of all, the wheels are very dark. The difference from the bottom of the car to the top, there's a pretty big color and light shift difference. So we'll try to take care of that. If we look at the overall scene, although it's a very cool environment, I think we can benefit from bringing back some clarity and getting rid of some of that fog. If we look at the foreground here, there's a lot of stuff that we can clean up that would help bring attention to the car. And then I think we can work with the crop a little bit. And then lastly, I think we can try to bring out some of the vibrance in the trees, just make the greens a little more vibrant, and then maybe do some custom touches on the car. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and start in Camera Raw. So I always take care of the thing that bothers me the most about the photo, and I think right now it's the fact that the wheels are so dark. So I think we can solve a lot of this by pushing up the shadows. So this is a raw file, so we're able to push the colors a little bit more than we would if it was just a standard JPEG or a lower resolution file. I think we may also push up the exposure just a little bit to help us there. Maybe push even the shadows a little bit more. Play with the highlights. I haven't gone through this photo yet, so I think we're going to experiment a little as we go, and we'll just see what happens. Good thing about Photoshop is you can always go back if you don't like something. So we got some detail back in the wheels. I think we can go a little bit further with those. We may do a radial filter on that. And then this just has kind of my generic settings from the last photo that I retouched. So maybe we just pump that up a little bit, give the shadows a little bit more help. Clarity. Sometimes dehazing helps. And maybe a little sharpness. Do the same thing back here on the back wheel. It's pretty good. I think to get some drama in the sky right off the bat, I think I'll go ahead and plop down a graduated filter as well. So this draws the filter from higher intensity to lower intensity, and then whatever you have over here is what it's going to bring in. So you can bring that exposure down some if you want. Again, you can bring up the clarity a little bit. Probably don't want to bring the shadows up. And then I think we'll wait for the bottom to do that in Photoshop. Maybe we even give that a little bit of color. All right, and then let's go to our next panel. I don't think we really want to do anything in this one right now. Any noise, let's try to address that right now. Just give it a little bit of pre-sharpening. Here's a good tip. Hold down Option and slide this. You can see what is being sharpened. So you don't really want to sharpen texture, you really want to sharpen the lines. So this masking tool allows you to see exactly what's being sharpened in the image. So then we'll go to the next one. Here's where I think we can bring back some of the color in the trees. So if we go to our hue, we can make our greens a little bit more green. And even our yellows, we can push a little bit more towards the green. Saturation, same thing. we can get some of that green back in there. And then if we go to the luminance, you can see we can change the brightness and darkness. And we'll keep going over. This is just to get rid of some of the chromatic aberration that you might see on the edge of the trees, on the edge of the car. Now this is something here. Oh wow, so you can see this already had kind of a default thing applied to it. So this is what it looked like before we would have done anything to the photo. And this is actually where it was. So Photoshop, from the last photo that I did, it was already giving me some help there. So this is what it would have looked like originally, and this is what it looked like when it was fixed. So it actually helped us out quite a bit. The next thing I think I'll do, I'll go back to this gradient, radial gradient, draw a big one around the car. I'll just bring that down a little bit, and this still has the old adjustments from when we did the sky, so we don't want those. So we'll just double click that, bring this up some. I think we'll bring the highlights down. We want to try to flatten that car out a little bit. Just kind of try to get it all the same color without losing the overall feel of the car. So we're still good on our highlights. Everything still looks good there. But as you can see, that made a pretty good, if we just delete that really fast. So helped bring attention to the car for sure. So I think we're looking pretty good. All right, as you can see, we've opened the photo in Photoshop, and I've also opened the original photo right underneath so we can see exactly what the final and beginning product looks like, just so you can see kind of what a drastic change it's made. So far, already really happy with the results that we have, but let's see if we can take it a little bit further. I think the next biggest thing that's bothering me is really the ground underneath the car. So same thing that we've done in some of the other videos, we're just going to go through here, work one side of the frame to the other, and just clean up the ground. We're just gonna, we'll sample an area nearby. Actually, let's make a new layer and make an empty layer and make sure we're on clone stamp current and below 100%, and then we'll just start cleaning up this area and getting rid of all of this junk. So we're just hitting Option or Alt and then just picking a clean area and brushing over it. It doesn't need to be perfect because we are going to darken this area down quite a bit, so it's not fighting for as much attention from the car, but we also do want to clean a lot of this stuff up first. All right, as you can see, we got the ground cleaned up. Only took a couple minutes, but you can see what a huge difference it made. And honestly, if you didn't see the before and after, you would never know anything was done. While we have the clone stamp and this layer out, what we're going to do is we're going to take care of, looks like these headlight or maybe some kind of lights in the background. We're just going to clone these out really fast. So we'll just grab an area right by it and just paint over it and kind of get rid of those areas. We'll keep this horizon line that's back there. So we'll just grab and paint over, and then same thing here. And then there's just a couple more here in the back, so just same technique. We just want to copy that texture that's in the reflection and get it back in there so we're not creating any new body lines. Looks like there's another car back there. Another thing we can do is, instead of trying to get rid of all of that, I think if we just get rid of the highlights, you won't necessarily see it, and it will just kind of blend in and look like just a normal reflection. You won't be able to tell what it is. And then maybe this one too. So it's a little bit of cheating, but no one's going to zoom in that far and check it out. But pretty big difference just on that simple little cleanup there. So as I mentioned, I think the next thing we want to do is darken the ground up a little bit, just to play off of what we did in the sky with the darkness and help bring attention to the car. So we're going to open up a curves layer here, and we're just going to pull that center point down a little bit and maybe a little bit over. So then we have a white mask, so we actually want to turn that black. So we have black selected over here. We'll hit Alt Delete or Option Delete. That'll turn that white mask black. Then we can hit B for our brush tool, and we can paint in white, and then we can just paint that effect back on. Our flow is extremely low here, so we'll just up that up to 100%. And we're just going to paint that in around the asphalt here. The good thing about a layer mask is you don't have to be super careful, because you can always go back and just hit X to get black, and then you can go and paint it off of the car or whatever you may have painted over on. And then I think we'll make another layer, another curves adjustment. Make this one a little bit darker. Again, same trick. Option or Alt Delete. Get your brush tool, switch it to white, and then we're just going to paint in here a little bit darker. Darker around the wheels, around the car, just to make it look a little bit more real, like there's a shadow there. Alright, so if we zoom out, first, second, I think the second one helps quite a bit selling it. I think the next thing, let's make a merged layer, and we're going to crop this. So I think the car would look a little bit better if this line here was a little bit more straight and these trees were a little bit more straight. So let's pull this down this way. And then what we're going to do is, because we don't want to lose a lot of this, we're going to try this and see if it works. So this version of Photoshop has this tool that is content aware cropping. So as you can see, we're cropped outside of the actual picture. So in theory, what this will do is this should leave us, it should fill all this area and not be noticeable. It works like 50-50. So we're going to click that, click this to apply it, and we'll see what we're left with. And as you can see, I mean, not bad. I mean, there's a little bit of a line there that we can go in. We can probably get rid of that with this just patch tool. So not bad. The car looks better. It's at a better angle. This is at a better angle. Those trees are straight up, so that's definitely good. You can see what it did on the crop. It helped us out on kind of all sides there. I think from here, let's go into my favorite plugin, Color Effects Pro, and see what it does. So here's a default Color Effects Pro. I really like the effect that we're getting in here in the clouds. Brought a lot of texture back into those. The car may be too much. We may have to brush some of that off. Let's go ahead and do one more thing, because I think this particular photo will look cool with a vignette that's in this system. So if we change this is called Darken Light Center. So if we change this to more of an oval, we can pick where we want our center focal point. And I think we really want to focus our eye right down in here on the car. So as you can see, before, after. So let's apply that and see what it looks like. Yeah, I really like that. I think it might be too much. So maybe we bring that back just a little bit. Maybe we'll go to 60% on that. But I really like what that's done to the image as a whole here. I think the next piece that's bothering me are these windows. And they're just really bright, and I understand that there's not tint on this car, but I think this car would benefit from some tint. So let's darken these windows up. And this is the same technique that I showed you in the last video. So we're just going to draw a quick selection around the window with the pen tool. Doesn't need to be super accurate. So we'll make a new layer. We'll go to our paths. Command click that path. We have black selected. I'll delete that. At the same time, we'll make a new layer. We'll go to our gradient tool. We'll switch these colors to our default black and white. And we'll go here. And we're going to draw a white gradient just down the window like that. So Command D. Let's do that to the side windows really fast. Same steps. So we'll get our pen tool. We'll go in and we'll trace right around the window. Same thing, make a new layer, go to our work path, Command click, back to our layer, hit X to fill that with white, or black, sorry, and then new layer, switch it to white, go to our gradient tool, and draw straight down. That's probably a little bit too much. So we just go Command Z, go straight down. There we go, kind of like that. And that looks ridiculous right now, but we will lower the opacity significantly on all of these layers. And there we go. That looks better. So if you want to see what we did there, let's group those into a group. So before, after. So I really like where this photo's at. Let's take a second. Let's merge this all together. Let's group all of these into a group just so we can turn it on and off really easily. So here's where we're at now, and that's what we started with. So pretty big difference and not a lot of time. And honestly, I think I would be pretty happy with this. I don't know that we necessarily need to dodge and burn. I think the highlights and the body lines are really chiseled out on this. I think we're good there. I think if I were to do anything else, just from a pure aesthetic standpoint of the car and my personal preference, maybe it could use a little bit of lowering, and I can show you that really fast. So on this new layer, let's make a new one. Go to your pen tool, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw a straight line from here. Let's just draw it to the edge of here. So same thing we did with the windows. We're just going to go in and we're going to trace around the wheel well. And again, this doesn't need to be super precise. That area is so black that probably need to be a little bit more precise than that back here. So we'll just trace around the perimeter of the car. And then we can actually just spit straight out here. Make it a little bit bigger. And we're just going to go up and around. So now what we'll do, go to our paths, command click that, and now we're going to hit command J. So what that did is that made a selection of the upper part of the car and the background. So now what we can do is we have that on our own layer. So if we turn everything else off, you can see what we did. We essentially just cut the car out. The wheels and the ground are still there. So what this is going to allow us to do is we'll take our selection or our move tool here with that selected, and on this layer we can just push the down arrow and effectively lower that top layer onto the wheels. So if you look before and after, and now with this on its own layer, because if you look really close, you'll see we have kind of a straight line right here. So if you get a brush tool, make this, bring this flow down quite a bit, and just make this a big brush. You can just go in and feather that line out. Same thing over here. You can see the line just a little bit. So you can go in and get rid of that. It just helps sell it a little bit more. Again, that's just personal preference. I think the car looks a little bit better lowered. So one last thing, let's make a merge layer. This is something that I do with all photos. We're going to go back into Camera Raw since we're working only in Photoshop. We want to do a couple things here. We want to make sure that we don't have anything clipping on either side. So we have a little bit of blacks, not a big deal. If you want, you can push your blacks up a little bit to get rid of those. Maybe a little bit of shadows. Yeah, looks like those are going to stay. Like I said, not a super huge deal. I'd worry more about your whites. And then any tweaks you want to do in here, you can do. I also like to sharpen in here. So again, we'll just raise the sharpening up. And we'll also hit that option key again. Slide it over, make sure we're just sharpening the car, none of the texture. And the other thing, we can hit this with some noise reduction. Just because sometimes when we apply the tonal contrast, it can add in noise to the image. So this will help get rid of it. And then if we want to, another thing we can do is just can darken up this asphalt a little bit more if we want to. Spread this out a little bit. And I think that looks good. All right, so I think we'll call this our final image. If you want, let's take a look at where we started and where we finished. So pretty big difference. If you have any comments or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, normal stuff, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care.